I'm Joe Apgar, Chief Operating Officer of Pelotonia. The episode you've selected will begin in a moment, but first I wanted to tell you how you could have an impact on innovative cancer research right now. COVID-19 has altered so many of our lives, but as a cancer survivor myself, I have learned that life is learning to adapt to a series of events. We were all looking forward to our traditional ride weekend in early August, but we had to adapt and find a way to channel the spirit, the commitment, and the inspiration of this community into a new, reimagined experience. This year, we are proud to introduce My Pelotonia, an opportunity for you to personally define what Pelotonia means to you through setting goals, big and small, and challenging yourself to do something. It could be you want to accomplish something new, improve your health, run, ride your bike, sew masks for family and friends, or perform random acts of kindness for those in need. Whatever it is, you set your challenge and fundraising goal. You determine your Pelotonia this year. You make it happen. 2020 will not be defined by COVID-19. Instead, we will show the world and define this year by our perseverance, our commitment to raising money for cancer research, and our creativity. There is so much more to My Pelotonia, so get involved today. Visit pelotonia.org or click the link in the show notes. That's pelotonia.org. Together, we will rise.
And there was a woman in her front yard, and she didn't have bells or anything. You saw that she was holding an IV, and her head was completely bald. And you looked up, and she just had a sign that said, "Thank you."
So that feeling, that energy, that emotion that woman gave to you, or the man who has the sign, "Thanks to you, my wife is here," is what you're giving to your loved one who's sick, to the nurse who's taking care of them. That's the thank you that you can give.
Welcome to One Goal, a podcast from Pelotonia. We're a community dedicated to funding innovative cancer research through a 3-day experience of cycling and volunteering. I'm your host and Chief Operating Officer of Pelotonia, Joe Apgar. Your journey with us to the finish line begins now. Pelotonia is powered by an amazing community, and it's through research that we will see an end to cancer. We want to thank our major funding partners: the American Electric Power Foundation, Huntington, the L Brands Foundation, and Peggy and Richard Santulli. Every year, Pelotonia has a unique power of igniting a giving and unifying spirit within our incredibly diverse community. It also has the power of igniting new friendships and stories. This episode you're about to hear is just one of the many. Jim Coleman and Bill Zito are two different men from two different backgrounds. Jim has been involved in Pelotonia since day one. Bill's first year was in 2019. Both of them have raised a significant amount of funds for our one goal. Professionally, they are in two different worlds. Jim is in construction and Bill is in professional sports. But personally, they are both in the same role, caring for their wives during their cancer journeys. Bill's wife, Julie, was diagnosed in May of 2019. Almost a year later, Jim's wife, Nancy, was as well. While the bonds of their friendship were formed through that experience, it's the same passionate dedication and sense of duty that cemented it. For this episode, we've asked both Jim and Bill to join us for a conversation we've titled, The Thanks You Can Give.
Yeah, so I work for Rosilli Construction, third generation construction firm, and been doing that for, almost a decade now. So I rode in the very first, I'm a 12-year rider. I rode 2 years with the Athletic Club of Columbus, and since then have been the captain of Team Rosilli. And then one thing I didn't mention in who I am is I'm also the original wrangler for Girls with Gears. So when they started their grassroots group, I was training them.
I'm the associate general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is my 7th season here. Prior to working with the Blue Jackets, I was an agent primarily in ice hockey for 22 years and operated mostly out of Chicago, Illinois.
And Bill, so you're relatively newer to the Pelotonia community. Obviously you're part of the athletic world, working with the Blue Jackets, and just curious how you came to learn about Pelotonia in the first place.
Well, you need a little context too. We had lost Julie's mom to leukemia. I had lost my sister Maggie just previously in January. She had passed away from sepsis as the result of a heart transplant and kidney transplant, but it was really brought on by she had bouts over a significant period of time with 3 different cancers.
Wow.
Hodgkin's, breast, and pancreatic, and actually beat them all. The day that Julie was diagnosed, my mom was diagnosed 2 days later. So we had a little bit of experience as a family, and Julie was in chemo in the Spielman, and I was just looking at the Pelotonia, kind of learning a little bit more and thinking, what can I do? And you're there as a spouse and as a caregiver trying to figure out, what can I do? And you can love your spouse, and you can be there for her or him and do all the things that that you need to do as a caregiver, but it's hard to go that extra mile. There's just nothing to do. You get warm blankets, and you can hear, honey, here's a drink, and she's got a needle in her arm, and she's lying there, and there's just not, you want to do something, and that was really what provoked me, and that was it. That was the overriding motivation behind becoming involved. Then when you learn a little bit more about what it is, it becomes so much more than that, where it's a way to, we were talking the other day, it's a way to show I love you. It's a way to show I thank you to the doctors. It's a way to show that Sabrina, the nurse who's there every single week, thank you. You can say thank you. You can buy someone a Starbucks, but and bring it back to the floor. But I'm gonna go. I don't know if I can finish 100 miles. I don't know if I can ride 10 miles. Look at me. But I'm gonna. Okay, and I may have to walk. I'll do it, and I'll do whatever I can. And that, in some ways too, it's like almost selfish, because now it's this gift that Pelotonia gives to me to be able to do something. Because without it, what can I do? So
yeah, it's interesting. I think you described it really well, which is, it's the thing that you can do. And, I know, Jim, I think your son, Declan, probably still holds the record as the youngest virtual rider to have ever signed up for Pelotonia. So he's obviously been along for the ride at sort of almost every minute of his life. But can you just describe and share what it's been like to have him along your journey?
I had ridden, I think, 5 or 6 Pelotonias, and they were wonderful and great. And then Declan was born January 16th, 2014, in the middle of a polar vortex, and he was 6 weeks premature. You have no idea what's going on, and this 4-pound thing is sitting with here, and he's hooked to a machine, and all the things that scare the crap out of you. And we were just sitting there, and I had my laptop open, and I said, I'm going to register him as a virtual rider. And I think back then, Peloton, you registered at the beginning of the year. So at 35 hours old, he became the youngest virtual rider in Pelotonia history.
I know, Jim, you've transitioned really from being everybody's friend, everybody's sort of cancer warrior to, you've got a battle in your family you're taking on right now.
Everybody knows my involvement in Pelotonia and my love of it, and been very supportive and through the years. So now all of a sudden, I'm sharing with people how this is affecting me. And I think sometimes I had an arrogance that, I thought I was was building up karma by raising all this money and riding all these miles that cancer couldn't find me. I made a comment. I said, I rode too fast. Cancer will never catch me. And that's come back to bite me. My journey started when my father-in-law was diagnosed. And then after my wife, when she had her birthday, the next day we got the call, and it's cancer, multiple myeloma. There were no symptoms. A little high protein, and she was a little tired. And I have to say thank you to her general practitioner, because Dr. Roscoe at the James, what she first told us, she said, I don't know how your doctor found this. Dr. Roscoe is one of the leading doctors in this field. She goes, I had to look at it 3 times to find it. So by some miracle, somebody was looking right at it and found it. And it was hard to believe, because traditionally the myelomas in highest risk group is African-American males over the age of 60. You have to go out, be involved in it to go find young women or young men who have this horrible disease. So the journey started also in the beginning of the coronavirus. So I haven't been to the James with my wife. And you drop your wife off at a cancer center like you're dropping her off at a mall. You drive away. And that's not what's happening, but that's what's going through your head. I have no idea if I'm going to be there for her surgeries. And that's where we are. We're just getting ready for the worst to come, and then the best to come after that. Nope, stick your head in.
Bye.
Sorry to interrupt. She's off to the James. She's giggling on her way to the James to get treatment for myeloma. She's a warrior.
That's amazing.
And Jim, if it makes you feel any better, the surgeries are way easier to not be there than the chemos, because you're not in them anyway.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm a rookie.
Yeah, well, you're not. So.
Bill, as you think about, being the husband of someone going through treatment and being a caretaker, I think Pelotonia was a big outlet for you, but, what would you tell people, or what advice would you give to people who are, like Jim, sitting in the shoes that you are in, which is being, a primary caretaker for, the person you love most in the world, and having to, be along this journey? What do you tell people when you get asked, or what do you share with them?
Well, I think first to have faith, right? That it's going to be all right. I guess you never really know. And to get past the drama quick, because it doesn't serve you well. It's okay. Like, of course, it's a gut punch, but in our case, we moved on and moved past it, and you deal with what you need to deal with. And I think that's the healthiest way. And the kids are paramount. If you have children, that was our focus. That's what Jules knew. She knew what she had to do. She's far stronger than me. And I guess my encouragement is to help your spouse or your loved one with what they need to focus on. Enable them to do whatever you can to help them help themselves, and then help the kids as much as you can. That's the important part for me. Yeah,
I think that's great advice.
That's the advice Bill gave me when I my very first phone call with him.
And I'm by no means an expert. I mean, it's been a lot, but
yeah, I think it's one of the things you don't want to be an expert on, and
no.
but hearing people, and it's one of those things where you take the advice when people give it to you, because it's it's uncharted territory most of the time when you get into it, and to hear one other person talk about something similar is I've found, just as a survivor and also, my sister's had cancer. You just got to listen and reach out to people, because that's really all you have at that point. And you just got to learn as much as you can. So I think it's great advice. You're both taking something, so personal, with your wife's diagnosis, and it makes its way into the professional world, right? Just whether through conversation, through asking people for money, everybody in your professional networks knows you're doing this. And how's that been received? How have you seen that sort of reach people that you never thought it would reach? Or have you had people share stories that you never thought, anyone would share in the professional world, in your professional setting?
The clients have been unbelievable. My teammates, my company, the Rosilli family, personally, it's really amazing. And I think the other thing that I'm building 2 very large churches right now, our company is, and they're my clients. And out of nowhere, the head pastors have reached out and said, we're praying for you. And every time I walk into a meeting, they wait till the very end, they pull me aside, say, how are things going? And that has been, I'm not members of their church. And that's what's really been incredible. And then also the people, who are strangers, like, Bill and other people that, very busy with their lives, very busy dealing with this disease, very busy with their families, will take the time to give me really some hope and some confidence. During this virus, every now and then you lose faith in the human race.
Yes. Yeah.
Are behaving. And all it takes is one Pelotonia friend to put it all back into perspective.
Yeah, it's amazing. What about you, Bill? How is you sharing your story made its way into your professional world?
I didn't want to share it. When I started out, I was hoping to do my fundraising with my friends and my family. And one of our players, Nick Foligno, lost his mom to breast cancer. And he encouraged me to go public with the story, because he thought that the end result would increase the fundraising and the awareness, and that's the goal. So I did it, and I sat with Aaron Portzline and Allison Lucan, two local sports writers, pretty significant talents, and they both encouraged me to do it as well. And Aaron Portzline had written an article, and that really sort of expanded it in the hockey community. And after that, the donations, the funding was extraordinary, but just as extraordinary as the giving was the notes and the support that I received, even from people I didn't think liked me. Maybe there were some agents that you had some contract negotiation struggles with, and they wrote a kind note and a gracious text or something, and I was wow. And people would share their stories and what have you. I definitely don't want to be the cancer guy, but I certainly want to be the Pelotonia guy.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. When I was going through my personal, cancer diagnosis, and I remember thinking the same thing. I wanted to be really private about it and not share it. And someone told me, they said, when you share it, you will be shocked at what people share with you. And what I found was that, almost everyone in my life had been impacted by cancer in some way. It was their parents or a sibling or a grandparent. And I even met people who themselves, my principal at my school, my high school, had the same cancer I had when he was my age. No one ever knew about it until you start sharing. And I think it's just generosity and story and connecting with people. It just goes a long way, and I think builds really powerful connections. What surprised you the most as you started sharing your story and the fact that you were doing Pelotonia for the first time?
Everyone thought I was nuts. I mean, if you haven't seen me again, this body was not made to ride a bike, and in fact, this kind of, I'll preface the story about my family. When I went to Trek, I bought the bike, and the guy who sold me the bike, Jordan, who's become a very good friend of mine, he also rode with me and helped me
awesome.
And took me out and said, listen, if you're going to do this, I'll sell you the bike, and kept checking in. Are you okay? What do you need? Yeah. I mean, my family was I think Julie knew that I needed to do this, and it was something for everybody to focus on. It was fun. It was a little silly. You know, is Daddy really going to do this? And I was really, really, really scared that I wasn't going to be able to finish. And then I had also foolishly said, well, what's the fundraising record? I want to break that. The kids were all in, and that was really fun for them to have. You know, it was an event. It was something positive. It was something in this time of, we were scared.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
You couldn't really say it. And I didn't really talk about it in front of the kids, but, so it was almost a celebration. It was something to look forward to. My parents were able to come. My mom came. We went to the event. Friends came over. It was a party at our house afterwards. So it was a great bringing event to bring people together. Sort of a celebration of love, I guess.
Bill said moments ago that his goal was to break the individual fundraising record, and he did just that. With 396 donations coming in from 24 states and 3 countries, he raised a historic total of $160,098.18. Over the past several years, the individual fundraising record of close to $100,000 was a battle between 2 of our amazing community members, Michael Schoen and Michael Gardner. We're excited to see who can come out on top this year. We are so grateful for this and all the inspiring dedication that our community shows each year. Another way riders and Pelotons display their passion is through their jerseys. While every dollar he raised and mile he biked was important, the jersey Bill wore carried a great amount of depth and meaning.
Actually, my daughter Frankie designed it. She designed the arrow. It's a rainbow, but it's the colors of the respective cancers of people in our lives that the kids kind of decided who I was riding for, other than mom. But we had my mom, Julie's mom, my college roommate, Mr. Kudart, who we lost about a month ago, who was the husband of Frankie's second grade teacher. Frankie went and made arrows for everybody, and those are on the back. And then we sold sponsorships, and she placed the sponsors around. She chose pink for breast cancer. It was hard because we had to go in, and she went in and she got the Pantone colors and sent them off. And then, we were in the hospital, and I was trying to find sponsors, and Julie was doing the scalp cooling. And so I looked in the back of the scalp cooling thing. There's an 800 number for Paxman. And I said, well, these guys should be all over this. So I called it. Sure enough, no problem. We're in. It was awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, they were great. They were, that's a great idea. We'd love to support it. So the kind of neat how everybody sort of just came together, and yeah.
One of the most fun things about this whole thing is when the jerseys start popping up. When you're on a training ride or you're Pedal for Pete, as a ride a couple weeks before Pelotonia, a lot of people use it as a last training ride. Bill, if you haven't done that, it's a great flat course.
It's like the Pelotonia warm-up for a lot of people.
Oh, really? There's one someone was telling me about that you ride like 15 miles and you hit a graders, and then you go again and there's another graders.
That sounds amazing.
I do 500 on that one.
before we finish up, and I know this is going to be difficult to do this, but if you could sum up Pelotonia and the Pelotonia experience in a couple sentences, how would you do it?
How about I can describe what I can't say? That's the best way that the Pelotonia experience is, okay, I'm trying to find the words to describe something that allows you to express your love, your appreciation, your thankfulness in a selfless, selfish, at the same time, positive, exciting, reflective, graceful, fun, really, sincerely fun manner. And at the same time, generate a significant amount of money for a vital cause that, don't forget, and I'm gonna go off on a tangent here.
Go.
It works, by the way. So whatever money we give to the researchers, it'll work. Like it might not work 100%. Some of the cancers we're experiencing today, we will not be experiencing 5 years from now.
Yep.
Someone will be cured by the funds that we raise.
Yeah.
Okay. So our children, okay, is who we're riding for. Well, there you go. Go get on a bike. That's all the motivation you need.
I think what Pelotonia does is it makes a cure possible. For the first time, 12 years ago, you believed a cure was possible.
When I think of the ride, I remember the spot where I was on the bike when I rode past the first survivor. And I saw the back of the jersey and I thought, oh boy, I'm going to break down here. This is not good. And she turned and looked at me and was like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, wait a minute. This is not supposed to be like this.
The very first year, there weren't a lot of people on the course. I was in the middle of, I don't even remember where I was. I'm sure it was 35, 40 miles in. And there was a woman in her front yard, and she didn't have bells or anything. She was in a white pajamas, and you saw that she was holding an IV, and her head was completely bald. And you looked up, and she just had a sign that said "Thank you." And we rode by, and it was one of those moments where you had to get everything together because you were going to crash, because she had taken or given you something to think about, that this random stranger, these bikes were riding by her house, that somehow she knew it. And that was that moment. And I still have that image of her, through all these years there, you go through Granville now, and it's like going through a stadium. I mean,
yeah, it's amazing. It's like
we
your own
ride
parade.
to Granville, and the bet is try not to cry. Don't let it take so much out of you. But it's like going through, I'm assuming that's what the band at Ohio State feels like when they run on and 106,000 people go berserk. Because that's what Granville on a bicycle feels to me on a Saturday in August.
Yeah, that's very well put. Very well put.
So that feeling, that energy, that emotion that woman gave to you, or the man who has the sign, "Thanks to you, my wife is here,"
Yep.
is what you're giving to your loved one who's sick, to the nurse who's taking care of them, to Bill Farr. That's the thank you that you can give. And that's it. You hit it. You hit it. So that same intangible emotion of the tingling in your spine, or when the band runs onto the field in the horseshoe, that feeling, that's that powerful emotion that you are giving back by doing it, by participating, by giving, by your actions. you just, thank you doesn't do the same thing, but this does it.
Unfortunately, just before we were about to publish this episode, we learned that Jim's father-in-law, Richard, passed away after his courageous journey with cancer. Our thoughts and prayers are with Jim and his entire family, but we would also like to take a moment to remember those who we have lost to this terrible disease, and to send our best wishes to those in treatment or about to enter treatment. Never forget, there's an entire community here fighting for you. Thanks again to Jim and Bill for taking the time to do this, and thanks to you for listening. As a cancer survivor myself, this conversation was insightful as to what my own family must have experienced during that uncertain time. Hear my journey in Season 1, Episode 4. Before we get to the preview of our next episode, we want to acknowledge our major funding partners: Peggy and Richard Santulli, the L Brands Foundation, Huntington, and the American Electric Power Foundation. Because of them, every penny raised goes directly to innovative cancer research. Here's what's next on One Goal.
But the human emotional connection was almost immediate. For some reason, when I met with folks who work with Pelotonia, I really, truly, genuinely feel this is just part of my family.
There's a small subset of advanced lung cancer patients treated with immunotherapy that are alive 5, 6, 7 years later with no evidence of disease and off of therapy. And this is revolutionary and transformational. Just maintaining that hope, I think, is really important for patients.
You've been listening to One Goal, a podcast from Pelotonia. Season 2 will be hosted by me, cancer survivor and chief operating officer of Pelotonia, Joe Apgar, with interview and production scheduling by our marketing and communications team duo, Emily Smith and Gabby Blauer. Produced, mixed, and sound designed at the studios of Wessler Media by Vince Tornero. Additional mastering by Joey Gerwin at Orange Judio. Special thank you to all of our guests for being so open and willing to share their stories. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, as that will help others hear these empowering journeys. If you're curious about joining the Pelotonia community and making an impact on cancer research, please see the link in the episode notes or visit pelotonia.org. That's pelotonia.org.